Hi, everybody. Getting back into this book is anti-racist, and I'll be honest with you guys. I was on the fence about whether I was going to share this chapter with you today, thinking, oh, it's the holidays, we need to take a break, talking about racism and racial relations in our country. But I realize if I'm going to be a social justice warrior, and if I'm going to prepare you guys, we have to talk about the things that are wrong in our country as much as we can. So, in that spirit, I'm going to share chapter 4 from this book is anti-racist. Just want to remind you that the author, Tiffany Jewell, writes this book in the first person. So even when I'm reading, I'm going to read it just as she wrote it, but know that when the author says I, she's speaking of herself. I'm not. I'm not the author of this book. All right, off we go. Chapter 4. What is racism? Someone described racism to me as the smog we breathe. It is all around us. Racism is everywhere. Our lives are polluted with racism, and it harms us all. The more we are aware of the smog of racism, the better equipped we can become to combat this toxic way of being. When folks hear the word racism, many different things come up because there are multiple explanations and interpretations. Everyone has their own understanding and beliefs around racism. Some of the ones you may be most familiar with are racism is a system of advantages and disadvantages based on race. Prejudice plus power equals racism. It is prejudice or discrimination against someone based on race. The belief that members of each race have different characteristics. Because of this, folks believe that some are inferior and some are superior. The best definition I've ever heard came from an anti-racist training I did several years ago. Racism is personal prejudice and bias and the systemic misuse and abuse of power by institutions. When I refer to racism, this is a definition I am using. Using this understanding of racism allows us to see how it truly impacts all of our lives. We have a lot of work ahead of us to break it down. Racism is not just prejudice. Everyone has prejudice or biases. These are our judgments, the things we discriminate against. Some of our prejudices are conscious and some are not. They are things we've learned and assumed from everything around us. This includes the stereotypes we've witnessed. Whether you're in the dominant culture or not also contributes to your prejudices. We begin to perform prejudices when we are 2 years old. Our biases are absorbed. We take them in and they become a part of our belief system. But they can change. Beauty. In many places in the world, people have absorbed the bias that light skin and European features are the most desirable. White people are considered to be the standard for beauty. Does this sound familiar? We can thank Linnaeus and Blumenbach for this. For hundreds of years, people have believed and passed on the belief that folks with darker skin are inferior. Those with the lightest skin have been treated the best, have had the most power, and continue to pass along the bias that light skin is superior. To be considered beautiful, to fit into the box of what is considered normal, some folks try to lighten their skin with bleaching creams, and some use chemicals to alter their hair. I spent several of my young teen years trying to force my naturally curly hair into a straight white hair. This cost my mom a lot of money. I wasted a lot of time sitting in the salon chair, and it caused a lot of pain on my head. The beautician placed a series of chemicals on my scalp to rearrange my curls, to undo the natural texture, and then, after several hours, straighten my hair with a very hot iron. This effect did not last very long. After about 6 weeks, my hair started to grow and my kinky roots showed. The process of trying not to have curls caused burns on my scalp, which took weeks to heal, and my hair began to break in large chunks. I kept this going until I was 15, when the kid whose locker was next to mine saw my curls after swimming. He said, "Why don't you keep your hair like that?" I didn't have a good answer for him, or myself. I kept my natural curls after that. My prejudice against my own hair and my desire to look more like my white friends caused me to dislike a part of myself. We have been conditioned to the bias of whiteness. We can undo this. People play a big role in keeping racism going. If we do not work to recognize our present prejudices, we remain a part of the problem. When we become aware of our biases and our role in racism, we can begin to understand how we are a part of a system that is much bigger than us. Racism is a part of our society, but it doesn't have to be. So now, I want you to think about who you are, think about your identity, and in your reflection notebook, on one side you're going to write I am, and on the other side you're going to write and I am. And you're going to think of all the identities you fill in the I am column. And then the and I am column, you're going to show how you're more than just that identity and speak the truth about who you are. You're going to need to take a picture of this and upload it to our Canvas classroom once you're done, so I can see that you've listened to this chapter and you've thought about your role as a social justice warrior. All right, here's an example that the author used. The author said, I am a twin, light-skinned, biracial, a first-generation American, freckled. And then the author got a little deeper, and she said, and I am my own person, Black, a whole person, proud of our family history, in love with my extra melanin. So on either side, you can have any part of your identity you choose. I just want you to think about who you are a little deeper and share what you have with us. All right, that's the end for this. There's no need for a video upload for this time. That's all you have to do for this assignment. Thanks, and hope you enjoyed listening.